You're listening to the official podcast for the Games Institute. We are a multidisciplinary research center located at the University of Waterloo, studying all things games and interactive technologies.
One by one, we'll sit down with our researchers to talk about what they're studying and what they're playing. No jargon, no word counts, just the cool stuff.
Welcome back to the Games Institute podcast. As always, I'm Marisa Benjamin, your host.
I'm your co-host, Tobin Rossico.
And we have a special announcement. We've got an accent sitting here today.
Well, okay, first of all, hi everyone, I'm Stuart.
Yeah, there is a name behind the accent. His name is Stuart Hallifax, and he is here from...
Well, France, depending on how far you go back, right? I mean, I came here from France, but as you can tell by the accent, I wasn't born in France, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in England, and I've lived there for about 17 years now, going on 17. Well,
Yeah.
that's long.
Yeah, this has been a hotly discussed topic across the Institute since Stuart got here about a month ago.
Yeah.
So, let's start off with our icebreaker question. What is your earliest memory of gaming?
Wow, earliest memory. Yeah, it's gonna have to be probably when I was about like 5 or 6, like a very, very old Atari console. I want to say like the Atari Omega or something like that, like something really, really old.
Very archaic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember this because the only way we could get it to work was on a TV in my parents' room, where we had to, like, with our 5-year-old small bodies and arms, sort of angle ourselves behind the television, plug it in, and then tune the television in to get the signal from the console.
Yeah.
Which usually took us about, like, 5 to 15 minutes because there was 3 buttons in the back. We never knew which one to press, so... And it never saved the tune, right? So we had to retune it every single time to get the console working. So, yeah, I'd say that's about... Yeah, good memories with me and my 3 brothers just, like, finagling this television to work properly. It was kind of fun, yeah.
I have similar experiences with the Super Nintendo before we had, like, the AV inputs, right? You had to hook up, like, the...
Yeah.
I don't even remember what they're called, but to get channel 3 working.
Yeah, basically.
And it never worked.
Well, it's the thing is like plugged straight into the TV antenna, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the cleverness of how they managed to get this signal onto a television which was never really designed to accept a different signal than the television recording was getting, right?
We've come so far.
Yeah,
HDMI.
wow.
You know what's interesting about this question is it's so open-ended. People take it whichever direction feels right for them. Because I would have answered an actual specific game. Some people talk about a gaming experience with family. You've talked about hardware.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
I have no memories at all of what games we played on that console at all. I just remember setting it up, right? And I don't remember what games we played. I don't remember how much we played them. Just... Yeah, the time it took to set us up. So
that's fascinating to me because I could not tell you anything about the consoles that I was playing when I was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, it was all about the game and the experience.
So what brought you to the Games Institute, Stuart? What from plugging an Atari back of a computer into the back of a TV to here? What has been your trajectory like?
Fill in all of the gaps.
Okay, so to answer your previous question, what brought me here? I mean, this morning it was a bike, and about a month ago it was an aeroplane, right?
Okay.
So, no.
He's difficult. He's a great guest.
So, no, going back to what sort of pushed me to come here. Back home, I mean, I still technically am now, but I'm a PhD student, right? So, my work deals with gamification, and more specifically, adaptive gamification, which is the idea of, like, different people will respond in different ways to different game elements, right? As we all have different like preferences in games, preferences in movies, we'll have different reactions to different things. So someone who's more goal-oriented will like leaderboards and badges and achievements, whereas someone who's more sort of like on the social side will like things like gifting and forums and discussion, things like that, right? And I don't know whether you know, I mean, you probably do because you guys have been here a lot longer than me, there are 2... very prominent researchers in the adaptive gamification field that work here, Leonard Knack and Gustavo Tondello, right? And I met those guys about a year ago at the Chi conference. They were presenting multiple papers, and Leonard actually, with Gustavo, gave a course on gamification, things like
nice.
that. And I went up to them and said, "Hey guys, I'm interested in the research you do. Like 70% of the papers that I write basically reference them every single time."
That's awesome.
That's
So
awesome.
it was like, "Hey guys, I may or may not have some free time next year during the summer." And then it was like, "Yeah, hit me up." And like, we can't offer funding. It was like, "Oh, okay, I can get funding back home." And
Right.
came over here and worked with those guys for a couple of months.
Awesome. So what has been the bulk of your research through the GI? What kind of studies or research have you done, and what kind of interesting findings have come out of it?
Well, we're currently, with Gustavo, running a study, or getting a study started, on looking at the links between player types, so sort of reasons for why people like different types of games, and looking at the links between those and behaviors. Because what I work on back home during my actual PhD research
Right.
is we've got a project which is financed by the French government, which essentially looks at trying to apply technologies in schools.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you know, but back home they have a thing where it's like, oh, we've got all this money, so we're going to buy tablets for schools, and
Right.
there you go, and no idea like what to use it for and how to use it. So we came along and said, okay, we can try and gamify maths learning, but instead of just gamify it by giving everyone the same things, we changed it so different students have different game elements based on who they are,
That's really cool.
right?
Yeah.
And we're going a step further with just like a static adaptation. We're going a step further with what we call dynamic adaptation, which is we look at like their behaviors and how they're acting in the system, and then changing what game elements they have based on what they're doing. Because you can only go so far with a questionnaire to determine what someone's like, right?
Right.
Depending on the situation, depending on the context, people behave and act differently. And then looking at how they are acting in real time, we can then refine or change the adaptation that we have for them, right? And that's basically that's the research I do back home, and the research I'm doing here is just looking at the study we're running is asking people to perform a simple task but then interact with game elements, and then looking at how they interact with game elements and how that influences their sort of progression and performance on the task,
Right.
and then getting ideas between their player profile and then their behavior profile, right? And that's what we're looking at.
So when you're dealing with students, are you constructing their player profile based off of their learning preferences, or is it their gaming preferences? Because you talked about rewards and goal-based before, but I'm a kinesthetic learner, for example. Is that something you take into account?
We actually use two sort of profile metrics, right? We use the Hexad profile, which Gustavo and Dennett have worked on previously. Like, they developed it and they created the questionnaires and things like that. And we use that which is a general like gamer profile, right? It's like rewards are a good way to motivate me, or I sort of feel accomplished when others feel accomplished and things like that, right? So that's like purely like gaming related sort of motivations. And then some of my colleagues actually at a different university back home, they're looking at motivation but related to learning maths, right? So it's I go to maths class because X, right? And X can be things like I go to maths class because I want to learn new things, or being good at maths will help me get a better job later on in life.
My mom won't yell at me.
Funny enough, that's one of the questions. One of the questions is I go to maths because if I don't go, I will be punished, right?
Yeah.
Or get in trouble. So yeah, it's looking at both, right? And then we're trying to draw links between player profiles, learning motivations, and then the behaviors, and then even like performance outcomes and things like that, right? So do people with properly adapted game elements perform better in the system? Do they perform more? Do they perform less? Like those sort of things.
Yeah, motivation seems to be the real key here when you're talking about styles.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's really cool because, I mean, we had Gustavo in here before and he was talking about some of that kind of stuff. So to analyze kind of your interest in this, where did this come from? Like at a basic level, when did you start wanting to research games? And could you pinpoint kind of the catalyst of going from this is really fun to, hey, there might be something that I could do with a career in this?
Not really. Like, I suppose I've always sort of been interested in the way games sort of shape the people we are, shape how we interact with things, and like in systems like that. And I think just gamification in general is a very powerful tool when used correctly, if that makes sense. Like it's, I sort of cynically come up with this idea of, yeah, you're tricking people into doing something they don't actually want to do by making it like a game.
Right.
But I mean, it's a pretty sort of down and cynical way of looking at it, but it's actually kind of true also.
What about showing people alternative reasons why they wanted to do it in the first place?
I mean, yeah, if you want to put a positive spin on it, right? Like that's the marketing spin that you use, but
yeah, rhetoric.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
No, well, it sort of came about like when I finished my master's degree back home. I had a 6-month internship with the lab where I'm currently working, where we worked on just basic like interfaces for creating sort of learning experiences and games that would span over multiple surfaces. So like it would meld tabletops with tablets with computers, and this like we essentially looked at how can we make an interface and a tool which would allow teachers to, or like content designers for schools and things like that, to design and develop these systems and platforms, right? And the idea, and that was a very interesting project, and we had fun with it. But then the idea came about is, okay, so how do these things are actually going to be used in schools? Like, how does this end up being used in schools? And then the people I was working with had this project which the French government put out. Is like, okay, we've got all this tech in schools and we need to find ways to use it in a real sort of like real world situation. And like together we sort of brainstormed this idea of applying gamification to math learning in using tablets, using this system schools. And then based off previous research they'd done, they sort of, well, we have this previous research where gamification works but doesn't really work for the same, like for everyone in the same way, right?
Interesting, yeah.
And then you have adaptive gamification. It's like, well, why not try and look at what people are doing, like analyze user activity and go for dynamic gamification, right? And that's basically where it came from.
Okay.
And this sort of like really struck a chord with my games as a good thing in the world, not just toys, right? But games as art pieces and things that make you think about the world and actually can influence how you do things and can be used for good, right? And that all sort of joined together and now form what I do day in, day out. So
I love that, because there's elements as I listen to you where I think back to my elementary school, and this definitely would have been helpful during high school, where there was, you know, like I remember in grade 1 we would get up and we'd have to read words, and we would like be marked our progress, and then if somebody could read this chart of words they would get a treat. So there's like really reward based stuff back then. And then in high school it was very much like the seed of trying to be a self-guided learner and stuff, which is much more prominent now, I feel like, in the higher education and stuff. But yeah, so figuring out that stuff I think is really fascinating.
I want to back up a second more, because I think we didn't get a sense of your undergrad history and your master's.
Wait, so I always get this confused because you guys have different words. Undergrad is, well, yeah, what's undergrad? Like
undergrad is a bachelor's.
Right, so, okay, so bachelor's, right. So
uni, I don't know if they call it.
What do you call it?
Well, in France, it's licence, master's, PhD, which licence is like, it's the equivalent of bachelor's degree, which is 3 years, then master's is 2 years, and then PhD is 3 years.
Oh,
wow,
my bachelor's was 5 years.
Yeah, no, we do things differently in France, right? So funnily enough, when I first went to university, so I finished high school before university here, right? Yeah, that's okay. I finished high school with the French national exam, which is the baccalaureate, and then I got like the not the highest grade, but like the distinction pass marks. So I was like, okay, great, nice. high marks. I finished with a science degree, and I was like, okay, what do you do with a science degree? Well, obviously you go to medical school, right?
Yeah,
that's just the thing you do. And medical school in France, well, it's kind of interesting. It's like 1,000 and something students in the first year, and only 100 make it through.
Right.
So it's like
wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, basically. So I did that for a year. It wasn't. It was kind of interesting. Like, I kind of liked it, and it sort of struck a chord with wanting to help people, wanting to do something interesting. Went back to do the first year again, because obviously didn't get in the 10%, right? Sat down in the lecture hall, first lecture back for the next year, and was like, after 10 minutes, like, nah, don't want to do this. Like, nah,
Didn't
I'm
like
done.
it the first time.
Yeah, and waited for like the half mark when like it was okay, coffee break, and straight out picked up my things, went straight to the administration desk, and was like, "Hi, I need to change. Like, I need to change my course.
Yeah,
Can I sign on
relate
for?
to this. Yeah.
Can I sign on for computer science?" It's like, okay, sure, sign here, sign here. You start in a week, so.
Why computer sciences? Why did you just know?
I mean, I want to come up with a better reason than I'm a huge nerd and I love computers, but there isn't really. Like, I sort of, I feel like all of my university career has basically been me stumbling backwards and falling over, but kind of everything working out. Like, because I went to university in Normandy, which is north of France, University of Caen, University of Normandy Caen, right? Did my 3 years license there. Sort of picked up some interesting things about like using games and designing AI for games and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. And then through various choices I made in my life, ended up in Lyon, which is basically the other side of France. I know that sounds impressive, like, but for you guys, it's like
driving to Cambridge.
It's an 8-hour drive, right?
Okay,
so for me, it's like very long, other side of the country. For you, it's like next town over, right? I guess. Like,
Oh no, not
8 hours,
necessarily.
that's further than Ottawa. That's like Montreal.
Yeah. Well, it'd be Quebec City, wouldn't it?
Sure.
I don't know.
I mean, you guys
I don't
can
know.
you guys can drive for 8 hours and not leave the province, right? Is that how Canada works?
Yeah, depending
yeah,
on the
for
direction.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, because
But-
like in Europe, 8 hours is I've crossed 3 countries.
Yeah, exactly.
And people don't speak the same language here anymore. But
Yeah.
I suppose that's Quebec, right? So
Yeah.
there you go. So
you
yeah,
can also drive half an hour and leave the country in Europe. I don't know. I don't like driving in 8 hours, 30 minutes. So
yeah, Europe's fun. So anyway, yeah, so ended up in Lyon, did a 2 years master's degree specializing in AI, and then just sort of fell my way backwards into this like internship with the lab. Really liked working there, and was like, hey, we've got this 3-year project. And my reasoning was, well, I don't want to get a real job now. Like, I want to keep being a student and not contribute to society in a meaningful way. So here I am.
yeah, I'm glad I asked you to trace that back a little bit more, because now we're getting more pieces of the puzzle that is Stuart. You have the AI connection, which I assume is the dynamic adaptive learning.
Yeah, the sort of like looking at traces and looking what people do, and then sort of deriving ideas and behaviors from that, right? It's looking at things which sometimes don't always make sense when you look at them separately, but then when you look at them together, like you start sequencing these things together, you can abstract bigger ideas and bigger sort of thoughts about what's going on and what people do, right? And that's kind of what I like, is trying to understand how people work and
right
what they do.
And I think that also is kind of the medicine element of your background, because with medicine is when you start to look at people as individuals, and you look at general trends, but when you're going to be working with a patient, you have to understand them.
Yeah, I guess so.
So you have that save the world element in there, and then you also have the appreciation of people.
Yeah, I suppose so. Like it's looking at people as individuals and not as a group, right? And that's the whole idea about adaptive gamification, and then even further dynamically adaptive gamification. So
well,
those sort of
I'm
ideas.
going to just jump ahead a second because I'm getting too excited. In our roster of questions, we usually close with a cheeky one, like, if you could get everyone in the world to play one game, what would it be? When we had Gustavo in here, he gave us an excellent answer, and I'm kind of thinking you'll emulate that.
Wow, if I could get everyone... So, like, the fun answer would be, I don't know. So, the what's the word I'm looking for? The sort of utilitarian answer, like the useful, useful answer would be play the check your news sources game, right? It's like don't take everything at face value game, but that just sounds kind of boring.
That's funny.
I don't play that game.
Well, yeah, no one plays that game, right? And that's some problems we have in the world today. Is no, I think if everyone should play one game, let's take a look at it that way, right? If everyone should play one game, no, I can't think of one game that everyone should play. I think just everyone should play games is what I would say to that question. Is like just pick any game, like any game you like, any game you want to play, just play it. Like don't feel embarrassed. Like, I mean, we're getting to a point in society, in life, where people don't aren't embarrassed to say that they play games. It's just a normal thing that people do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good thing, right? Is games aren't just for the nerd minority. They should be for everyone.
Sports are games too, by the way.
I mean, yeah, technically, but is it a game if you're not in sweatpants on your couch at 3 a.m. after not having showered all day long and you've spent the last 20 hours playing a game? Like that's real games, right?
Oh no, we're taking a turn.
For everyone listening, that was very heavy sarcasm. I don't know if that comes through on the recording.
I don't even know if it came through with me.
Oh wow!
I think I'm missing a sarcasm chip. But anyway, when we had Gustavo in here, when he was trying to answer that question, he said things like, "I can't answer that. I talk about personalization in games."
Which honestly, I was gonna say something like that, and it's like, nah, that's too on the nose. Let's not be corporate here. But no, that's right. This personalization in games means that there is a game for everyone, and even sometimes the idea of games aren't for someone can also be correct, right? Like, especially with the work I do and things like that. Like, some results actually show that if you're very intrinsically motivated by the task at hand, adding on extra things to make you more motivated won't necessarily work and can sometimes have the opposite effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm already wanting to do this thing. Why are you making me participate in this extra thing that I don't want to do, right? Which is fair enough.
Can you just take a second to say what intrinsic motivation is?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So we distinguish a lot about the work that I do. We distinguish a lot in intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Mm-hmm. So intrinsic motivation is motivation for the actual task, right? So, for example,
I do maths so I can get better.
Or I like doing maths.
Oh.
That's even like, I do maths because I have pleasure from doing maths. Like, I do maths because I want to get a reward. That's extrinsic motivation.
Right.
It's so I'm doing something for something that isn't part of the task, right? It could be like, for example, say for sport, like, I go for a run because I want to lose weight and get thin and get fit, right? That's extrinsic motivation. I go for a run because I like running. I like being outside. I like doing physical activities. That is intrinsic motivation. And sometimes what you'll find with people sometimes talk about intrinsic motivation as being good and extrinsic motivation as being bad. Like, it's I only do something to get the carrot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I only do something to get the reward or to get the good feeling that comes with it. Well, that's not necessarily true, right? I sort of take a more mixed approach between extrinsic, intrinsic motivation. I think both can be good in some cases. Like, a little bit of both is good for everyone, right? Like, we obviously want to feel empowered by the task you're doing, but failing that, being empowered by the rewards you get for said task can also be good.
I want to know, are you playing any games? Have you played any games recently? And how has your research kind of informed game systems as you play through them, or what systems have you come across that you like or dislike?
I mean, the problem. I say the problem. It's not really a problem. It's more of a very interesting way to look at things. But because of the work that I do, sort of like gamification work, right, which is taking basic game elements and applying them to different systems, I sort of get into the situation where when I start playing a game, I will start essentially taking it apart in my mind,
right?
And like thinking, oh, that's a point system and that's a progress system,
right.
And that's like, and you end up sort of decomposing these things and start thinking about, okay, so what is the point of this thing here, right? So say you take, I don't know, like what was the last game I was playing? Probably League of Legends, right? The new TFT thing that they came out. It's like, I can't stop playing it. It's a plague on my free time. But you look at that, and there's different systems, right? They have a system where you gain gold for winning matches and winning streaks, but you also gain gold by not spending gold. And these two very different systems offer different motivations and interests, right? It creates an interesting game dynamic where you can spend gold to get more power, but you can also save your gold to get more gold to be able to spend it later, right? And it's a different thing about if I spend it now and if I spend it later. And it creates these sort of interesting game dynamics. But I get into the situation where I start thinking about it in a sort of more general design and therefore sort of motivations. Like, what does this game mechanic make me feel, or make me sort of, what motivations or emotions does it sort of bring up in me when I see this thing? And it's sometimes very weird because you end up sort of not playing the game, but you are sort of, you interact with it, but
Right.
think about it in a different way, which is kind of odd sometimes, but it's a weird way of looking at things, right? I guess.
So are there systems that you prefer? Like, when you play games, are you very reward based? Are you like a completionist? Or do you play it because you just enjoy playing games? Like, is there something that hits the right notes for you when you play games?
I mean, I'm gonna have to reply with another non-committal answer, right? Because I mean, yes to all those things, right? There's some systems where I just love the actual system and I love like the mechanics of a game, and then other games it's like, no, I play this for the story, right? Like I play tons of, I was gonna say JRPGs, but no, it's just all Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah,
It's
there
like
you go.
anything that has Final Fantasy in the name, I've probably played it and have very strong opinions about it, depending on which one it is.
That's
But
amazing.
like,
I'm playing through 12 right now, so
same, right?
there
I'm
you
just,
go.
it's the first time I'm just about to finish Final Fantasy 12.
Awesome.
I've gotten right to the end and I'm like, yeah, I'm really into this. I'm really into the story. Whereas other games, like I'll play for the mechanics, like TFT, right? I
Yeah.
play that because the actual mechanics of how you build your team and how you have to think about your resources and resource management, things like that, that's very interesting, and it brings up this interesting dynamic. But then I can also sit down and play like Civ 6 for, again, this one of those games where it's like just one more turn,
Right.
like end up playing it for 7 hours, and I was supposed to do things, I was supposed to be an adult today, no, I wasn't, so well. But yeah, and like, I think my taste in games is like my taste in music, right? Which is anything. Like, people always ask me, like, it's a question you always ask me, so what kind of music do you like? What kind of games do you like? It's just like, my answer to that is yes, right? It's like, is it a game? Is it music? I'm probably going to like it. And if I don't, there's going to be reasons why, which aren't limited to, it's not the kind of game I like. There are certain mechanics or certain ways they do it, which I don't like. So,
Yeah.
Well, on that note, pun intended, how does this type of stuff, I know, you're welcome, good morning. How does that type of stuff, how does player motivations and player preferences, how does that translate across genres? Because you're talking about all of these games that you play, and I assume that it's just you playing, but we've played Werewolf together, which is One Night Ultimate Werewolf, best game ever for those who don't know. How does your player motivation translate when you go from playing Final Fantasy or League of Legends into playing Werewolf with all of us and we're all trying to lie and deceive each other?
I mean, it's almost like asking the question, why do you watch TV, right? Or why do you read a book? It's different things. I'm looking for different kind of emotional responses for different types of games or different types of interactions. Like when I play Final Fantasy, I'm here to essentially read a book, interact with the story, right? When I play Werewolf, I'm here to, like, as you say, like, not lie so much, that sounds really bad actually. No, I'm here to sort of interact with people and like try and construct this narrative that we're all trying to build together. Like, it's different. I search for different things when doing different games, right?
Yes, I think I agree. However, what I'm trying to get at is, so when you go into reading a book, the experience is probably the same unless you're sitting beside somebody reading a book. I mean, there are different genres in books. I mean, graphic novels. Maybe I'm talking myself out of this a little bit. I think what I mean is, do people carry with them inherent player preferences that they take to every genre of game? Am I the same person when I'm playing Werewolf as I am when I'm playing Pokemon Go, as I am when I'm playing Sims?
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. That's a very interesting question. And I kind of want to say, like, a naive answer would be yes, right? I think you do take a certain way to play. I think it's more of like a personality type thing. Like, the way you interact during a certain game will have some influence on how you interact on different games. But I think it's more because of who you are as a person, right? Like, if you are sort of like a more empathetic person, you are going to be more sort of like socially active in every game you play. Whereas some people, I think, are going to be completely different depending on which kind of games and which kind of genres they play. I think.
Maybe it's kind of something that is about self-selection. Like, Tobin will not play Werewolf with us anymore.
No, I hate it.
Yeah, because he doesn't like the pressure.
I'm not a good liar.
I mean, which is fair enough. Again, right? Is you don't have to interact with things that you don't want to, right? Is that you don't? I personally wouldn't go and see a rom-com in a cinema, but I'm perfectly happy to sit down on the couch and watch that. Like, which is the same thing as I don't personally play Fortnite because it's not like battle royales aren't my kind of game.
Yeah, I wouldn't like
But
that either.
I can understand why people do that and why people look at it, right? And why people want to interact with those kind of games. But again, it's like I think it's all coming back to this different strokes for different folks, right? It's different games for different people, different kinds of feelings and interactions for different kinds of times and different kinds of emotions, right? Like I don't know.
I wonder. Okay, this is kind of a out there thought, but I wonder if we could do a player profile kind of on the spot. Like, could you ask us questions and then figure out what our player profile might be?
Well, I mean, the real answer is yes. I can just read the Hexad questionnaire and like get your player profile.
Yeah.
But I mean, on a more just like chatting with someone generally, I think it's more of a getting a feel for who that person is, right? It's I think it's more of it's a more personal question than you kind of realize, because you have to delve into like it sort of gets into the very like psychoanalyst sort of question is, but why do you play that game? What are you searching for when you play this game? It's like, you say you like werewolf, well, is it because you like lying? Why do you like lying to people?
I like deceiving people and
Or is
manipulating
it because
people. No,
you
yeah,
like,
you're right. I don't
is
like
it
this.
because I remember you saying a while back that you play D&D, right? Well, is that because you like taking on a
Murdering
different
things.
role and taking on different characters and playing different ways? And that might link back to why you like to, air quotes, lie when you play werewolf,
Putting on a
because you like
persona.
putting on a persona and things like that, right?
Yeah. I don't know, actually, because I think for me, I actually don't like the role-playing aspect of Dungeons and Dragons. I prefer
The mechanics. And
I prefer going into a situation that's completely open and getting, the DM, Tobin, and that, because, I've only ever played with you as my DM, to explain everything that is kind of in this space, and then thinking about how I can manipulate it and then come up with the wackiest solution to it.
So more of like a puzzle solver and something like that. Like you like looking at a situation and then thinking of it as a puzzle.
Yes, and that is also why I play werewolf, actually.
Because you're presented with a problem. A situation is, okay, who is doing what role, and then what do I need to figure out? So
and how do I figure out who's doing what role based on how they're behaving?
Right, and that basically links back to what we could call like a very simple player profile for you is, well, there you go. Marissa likes puzzle games and likes thinking about odd ways to come up with a solution, which sort of ties back to D&D, right? Because any solution you come up with is the correct solution, right? There's no correct solution. There's no one way to do things. You can make it up as you go along, which is, I think, one of the main appeals for like role-playing games and things like that, right? Is you're giving this big set of tools, and it's up to you to figure out how you solve puzzles or create interesting solutions, right?
Yeah. In which case, for you, Tobin, do you think it's more about establishing the story?
When I play or when I DM?
When you DM, do you feel like you're playing too? That's actually, I've never asked you that.
It depends on the situation. So I feel like I'm playing. I mean, obviously, if I'm voicing a character and interacting with you. But I guess I feel like a player if I'm constructing a dungeon and trying to figure out how I can mess up the party or how I can have them have a good time. But I mean, there's a very distinct difference if I'm on one side of the DM screen versus the other. Like the panic that I feel as a player is never present when I'm a DM because I'm in control, right? But when I'm a player, it's awful because I have no idea. Like
you don't like the lack of control.
I hate being a player in D&D.
No, you see, I as well. Like I've had the opportunity to do like both sides of the DM screen. I love both, right? I love just like I think I'm one of the worst D&D players to have as a player, and probably one of the worst to have as a DM, right? Because I love going out of my way to make things awkward for the DM, right? This current we're currently playing through I say currently, we're on a kind of hiatus because hey, 6 hour time difference, right? Exactly. Makes things slightly awkward. So we're playing through a campaign of Wrath of the Storm King, which is like giants have started revolting and destroying everything. And I play a slightly overweight, always slightly grumpy, but not always, dwarf forge cleric, right? Which I basically go around taking things apart and making things new again, which is kind of really interesting because very early on I was gifted a pouch of pixie dust.
Nice.
And there's nothing in the rules that say you can do this, but I just did it anyway because it was fun and my DM took it and ran with it, which was when I make something, like I forge a dagger or forge some shoes or forge a ring, I'll sprinkle a bit of pixie dust in because it's kind of fun, right? And then my DM has to come up with, okay, so you've put something inherently weirdly magical in this non-magical thing you've created. The rules say you can't do it, but we're going to do it anyway. So I have these daggers which I think at one point made you float for like 5 minutes until they blew up. And then another time I made this hat like which did weird things as well. And we went into this shop. I love this so much. We went into this shop and like one of the characters was trying to buy like a magical tool chest of like all the toolkits you can have. And I was just like looking around and was like, it's like, hey DM, there's got to be some kind of like gachapon machine in here, right? Which sells weirdly magical rings for like 1 gold piece. And I was like, yeah, sure there is. Okay, look in my pouch, 45 gold. I'm gonna buy 45 of them.
No.
It was like, all right, fine. So it's like coin in, turn, put coin in, turn, and I had like a bag of 45 magical rings that we came up with this idea that like there's 12 different flavors of ring, but you can't tell before you put one on.
Yeah.
So it's things like you know where the nearest source of alcohol is, or you can control your blood alcohol level, or your hand magically floats in water. And we've come up with this idea, sort of like Infinity Gauntlet style, where if I get all 12, because we've sort of retconned that dwarves have 12 fingers, because otherwise it doesn't work, right?
Yeah,
if I have all 12 on at the same time, something magical happens. So it's just like coming up with these things that I've put in world for my DM to like, no, this is canon now. You've got to integrate this to your story. And it's like, oh,
Wow.
God.
So to answer your question, Marisa, that's what I love. Is I'll have a plot, but it doesn't come to life until the players step in and put their flavor into it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like the games that I've played with you, obviously I have a trajectory of what I want to have happen, but it's much more exciting once the players start to flesh out their characters and they start to make choices that impact the world, and then I have to go back to my desk and start typing and figuring out how do I now make these dots more connected and stuff.
And also, generally, that plot you have figured out, like from being my end on the DM, is like, oh yeah, this amazing dungeon that I've made for them, this is what they're going to do. And it's like, that never happens, right? They just enter and it's like, and you're like, oh, there's a big sign pointing to the left. It's like, go to the left, go to the left, go to the left. Now we go to the right. Oh, God damn.
I know. So the one time I DM'd a one shot, actually, I think I've done it twice. In both instances, I was really frustrated that the players weren't doing exactly what I had in mind. So I decided I wasn't going to DM anymore.
So when that happens is when you sort of have to rearrange everything you had planned. So like originally, say for example, go into this dungeon, they're supposed to turn left to access this room. It's like, oh, they turn right. Oh, well, the room is now magically on the right. So you just rearrange all your descriptions. Like the door to the west. The door to the east is now, and it's like, and you just make it up as you go along, right? And
I don't know. I let my players just like hit their foreheads against walls for some time too. Just like the very mean sort of like, did you check for traps? No. Well, then there's a trap, isn't there? Oh, damn it. Check for traps. No traps. Oh. There was a puzzle in a lighthouse that took them 2 sessions to figure out.
Oh, I loved that. So the other people we were playing with were getting really frustrated that we couldn't figure out this puzzle. And every time we messed up, what came out? A ghoul?
A ghast or a ghoul.
One of them. Really strong too. And I loved that because every time I fought them, I was thinking, oh, I'm getting more XP. So let's just keep releasing them.
That's EXP farm right there, right? That's how you break a session.
Yeah.
Well, unless like your DM's like mine and just like, nah, XP is plot.
It's capped out.
Well, it's not capped out. It's just plot progression.
I mean,
the DM decides when people level up and stuff. Yeah.
That's fun.
That's always one of my favorite words. Is like, yeah, next session, you guys level up. Always so good to hear, right? Right?
Is it easier to come up with like a player profile and then the dynamic behaviors when it's an RPG role-playing game?
Yes and no, because again, it sort of links back to what we were saying earlier. Is like different kinds of games have different motivations, right? And it's even worse, even more intricate with RPGs, right? Because you're supposed to be playing a character. You're not supposed to be playing yourself, right? Which is the whole point. And the reasons why me, Stuart, as a player would want to do something might be different for the reasons that Galbeck, the Dwarven Forge, has for doing something, right? Because you're playing a character.
Yeah.
That should be going into your dissertation, Tobin.
Yeah, it will. Because I was even going to ask, is there stuff that you come up in games? So I always think, have you played The Witcher 3?
Yes, I have.
So your version of Geralt, was he Geralt or was he you?
I mean, I want to say that I didn't play a lot, but I did it. Like, looking back on my Steam history, I actually ended up playing for like 60 hours or so.
Yeah.
Never really got into it, but I see what you mean. Like, depending on, which is weird because like depending on the game, I think that my version of Geralt was Geralt, right? Not Stuart.
Right.
But depending on different kinds of games, the person, like even depending on which playthroughs, right? I might just sort of mix it up and it's like, no, I'm going to do a playthrough where I play as the character I'm supposed to be, right? Which is obviously a lot easier in RPGs and games like that because there are a few more customization things like that, right?
Yeah. That's the stuff that I find fascinating right now is if you're given a character like Geralt or in like the Final Fantasy games, right?
Who has a backstory and has a character, do you go out of your way to make the character your own, or do you play as, like, air quotes, the game is intended to play?
Yeah. And then that's why, again, D&D is so fascinating, is because there isn't any stipulations that say, poetry, Marissa's character can't do this. You can do whatever you want, and then you have to make up the argument, is this in character or is this you just wanting to skin a whole bunch of
all of my characters end up being extensions of myself. So poetry, she's angsty, teenager-esque.
Your character's name is Poetry.
Well, okay, so she's a half tiefling, half elf.
Well, that is a tiefling.
Tiefling.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just a tiefling.
That's what a tiefling is.
Oh my goodness.
Like
Nobody...
It's half demon, right? Half demon, half elf.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nobody's listening.
Come on, Marissa. You got to nerd it up a bit here. Wow, this is like... this is basic D&D here. Come on.
So she's a tiefling. And when I was designing her, Tobin said, okay, you can either make up a name or you can look through this list of names for tieflings. And I had known... I mean, not to say that I know much more now, but I knew nothing about D&D at the time. So I was thinking, what even would be a tiefling name? So I was looking at this paragraph of names, and I came across poetry, and I thought, that's ironic because I want to play an angsty teenager. Yeah. So I constructed a backstory just based off of that word, where she grew up in a household full of really happy elves, and her mother, who was the demon, abandoned her with the elf family, and she always felt like she didn't fit in. And then
it's like reverse Harry Potter.
Basically,
if he had more agency, that's what it is.
And she wanted to go on her own, so she shortened her name down to Poe, and that's what people call her.
Wow, it's kind of funny that that's how you built your character, because it kind of sounds like what I did as well, right? Because I thought, okay, I want to make a forge cleric. So who forges things? The dwarves. So I'm going to call him dwarf. What's his backstory?
What did you call him? You called him dwarf?
Well, no, his name is Galbeck, right?
Okay.
And his full name is Galbeck Silveraxe. So I thought, that's kind of interesting. Silveraxe, axe, dwarf, forge. Oh, wait, this is going to be his backstory. So the backstory is, I sort of retconned into the world of Faerun that dwarves are named based on their family and then based on their profession, right? And that's how it usually goes. So you have people like, in Galbeck's family, you have so-and-so Silver Warden, which is he's part of the City Watch, right? And then you have Silver Trader, which is he's a trader. And then Silveraxe came because he was chosen by the dwarven god Moradin to be a forger, and he forged as part of his seminal sort of like coming into age profession a majestic silver axe, which became the symbol of his name and therefore of his family. And then, just to make it more angsty and sort of like the hero story, his brother took the axe, killed his father, and then that's how he came into action, right? You got to find your brother, find this axe.
Nice.
Funny enough, when we did manage to, like, my DM did sort of make that into part of the storyline, and we found the axe, killed my brother with the axe, which is like what you're supposed to do, right? Because that's how dwarves work. And then changed his name through divine intervention to not be Silveraxe but Silver Paragon, because he's now evolved through his character arc, has reclaimed the axe, reclaimed his family heritage, and is now moved on to be the shield of all dwarves, and yada yada, so forth, so forth.
That's really interesting. That's so elaborate.
Oh yeah, and the whole thing came up with just me sort of like riffing on, oh yeah, this is his name. Why is that his name? It's because he made an axe when he was younger,
Yeah.
and
The pieces start to click too.
Oh yeah,
because I have a bat named Telltale Heart in my campaign, and
obviously, I mean,
of course you can't not.
yeah.
It's really exciting to hear you talk about player preferences and how people carry with them and project into games, because I always had this sort of loose idea of who I was when I play games, but now I'm realizing that like the games and myself, we are constructing each other. Right,
exactly. And I think that these sort of like constructing who you are, I think is why I like and sort of as myself, games are an important part of my life, right? Not just because, again, as stated previously, huge nerd love nerd things, but also because I think that we romanticize, say, like books and movies, right? Like you can romanticize sitting down with a good book by a fireplace and spending all weekend just heading the pages and things like that, or going out to a movie and that touching you in some way that makes you cry and makes you think about life. And I'm of the opinion that games are also should be included in that category, right? Like people say games are art. Yeah, I 100% fully support that. Like not all games are art, but games can be art, right? The way you interact, the way they make you feel, the way they build you as a person and make you think about the world and make you think about how you're interacting with people and why you're doing the things you do. That in me is the power of games. Because say like books and movies don't have the interactiveness that you do with games, right? Because games, you make choices and you experience things and you live things more than you do just through a book, right?
Have you heard of the games series called Banner Saga?
I have heard of them, never got around to playing it. Because
so I haven't either.
Okay.
I haven't played them, but I was watching a video over the weekend because I know they're kind of like Fire Emblem and there's some choices kind of stuff.
Right.
And I was watching a review of them, and it was saying that there'll be times where you make a choice and you have no idea what the consequence will be until hours after, and then all of a sudden some major character is dead and you can't go back and affect it. And I was watching this and I was like, I can't play this game because I can't deal with these kind of consequences. I would have to see like a flow chart and know.
It's too much like real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like you said, like Life is Strange. I think the Telltale games and like Life is Strange, I mean, a lot of people joke about them as being walking simulators where there's no gameplay. Again, like for listeners, I'm doing very heavy air quotes. Whenever I make this voice, it's the sarcasm air quotes,
that's the
right?
signifier.
So it's like all these walking sim games where there's no gameplay and things like that. There actually is, right? They lampshade it a lot when you make a choice and there's like be a little butterfly on the top of the screen or so and so will remember this. It makes you think about like with games like Banner Saga and things like that where these choices have a lot of impact on the story and the world you're creating.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most interesting sort of like games in that sort of sense where there is no story and you make up as you go along is have you guys ever heard of the game Dwarf Fortress?
No.
Okay, so Dwarf Fortress is a very, very old game which is basically impossible to play, right? It's all through like text-based console output, like black and white, very, very hard controls. And the way it works is you have a colony of dwarves in a location in a world and you have to let them survive, right? And the way it generates the world is it starts with random seed, like it creates a planet, and then it creates events, and these events impact the stories, and then the lore, and then the gods, and the pantheon, all these things, and it does it automatically. But then when you're playing the game, these things that were done automatically, like when you set it up, can then impact the things that happen in your game, right? And it's the people that your dwarves will sort of like pray to as gods. Well, they are sort of hinted at in the world generation, right?
Okay, cool.
It sort of links back to all these choices that you make or may not have impact in what's going on. And I don't know, it's kind of interesting, right? Because then that sort of shapes how you approach a game and how these things happen. So.
All right. Okay. I've got another question that relates to all of this.
Right.
And I'm circling back again. There was one specific thing that you said that had me thinking, something about games being art.
Yeah.
Games are an elusive category of objects, I think. And games don't always have to be fun.
No.
Games can be puzzles.
Yeah.
Games can be art. Games can be chaotic.
Yeah.
Games can be serious.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about why people play games and how that tells you things about their player preferences and then their dynamic behaviors when playing games, does it matter that the game is fun? Does it matter that it's engaging? Do you even like the term serious games? I don't know. Take this and kind of run with it a little bit, because the idea behind what I'm asking you is, if people are playing a gamified version of a math lesson, are they going to interact with it in a similar way that they would be playing other games? Do their player preferences change so dramatically from that you can't carry that hexad model over to the next game that they're playing?
I think like so going back to like what you said about like serious games and gamification and
I
games
wonder
in
if
general,
you even like that term, serious
I
games.
do like the terms, but not for I like them for getting a general sense of an idea of how something was made, right? Because serious game is you take a game and add learning/serious elements to it to make it a more like comprehensive experience, whereas gamification is you take a learning thing, add game elements to make it more interesting, right? So it's approaching the same problem but in two different ways, right? And I think that's the way I like that's in the sense that I like these terms, is that's how they describe how the sausage is made, right? How these things came about. But I don't like them in the sense of it's not something that something can be a game, a real game, and can also be a serious game, right? Like the fact that a game is fun or not fun doesn't really have any bearing for me on what constitutes a game or not, right? A game is such a wide term that it can mean so many different things to so many different people, right? A game is, in the most broad sense of the word, an experience. It's something that you participate in. Like a game has to be like, you have to interact with it, right? You have to do something to influence what's happening in the game. Like it can be like with Final Fantasy. How do you influence Final Fantasy? Well, you put in time, and you put in time, you get out story, right? That's what the Final Fantasy game is. Like Banner Saga or Telltale games, you make decisions and that influences the story. Like for example, chess game is you put in your skill, you input your skill into this game, and then you create an outcome whether either you or your opponent loses, or it can be a draw, right? These are the things that happen. For me, a game is an experience, it's an interaction. And it's on that sense that I think that any kind of either gamified experience or serious game, or even just like general game, they're all equally valid as forms of like experiencing things and feeling things and doing things, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time thinking about games and why they're great. Like, I mean, yes, it's part of my research, but it's also just a thing I like doing because, like, games are amazing, right? People that go like, oh, I don't play games, I'm not a gamer. So, well, that's not necessarily true, right? Like, I even go as far as to say, like, reward cards and things like that in shopping. That's gamification. That's a game, right?
The
when
Monopoly
you go,
stuff at McDonald's and all
right?
those.
I mean, that's hitting the nail a bit too much on the head, right? It's
true.
like, yeah, Monopoly game. But, like, even, like, the Timmy's reward card, like, scanning that every single time, that's not integral to your...
Driving on the 401 is a game.
I mean, I have no frame of reference for what or who the 401 is, but I'm guessing it's a big highway.
Yeah,
so...
it's one of the worst highways in the world.
Oh yeah. I've heard about this
yeah,
before.
And it's
yeah,
how
so
I
it's
get
like,
from here back to my hometown.
I mean, hopefully in one piece, but not always, right?
Oh
I mean,
my
that's the whole
goodness!
point
Don't
of
get
it.
me started. But yeah.
Like anything can be a game if you approach it with the right mindset.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think that
or the wrong mindset, but yeah.
Yeah, obviously, right? But I think obviously the way the sort of like your profile does sort of. I mean, I've never sort of looked into it, but I do imagine that the way your profile can sort of change depending on the context, right? I mean, there's a research paper that we wrote with my supervisors back home on just basically a state-of-the-art review of trends in adaptive gamification for education, right? And we sort of come up with this idea that depending on the scenario and situation, your sort of output of what you expect from a game can differ, right? And from your experience can be different. And again, this is another study that we've currently getting published in a conference which is going to be out in October. Fingers crossed. I don't know. I'm not good with dates, but we looked into. So there's a bunch of studies in like the gamification system where it's like, oh, we tried this gamified application in health, we tried this gamified application in education. These are the different results, right, for different peoples. And it turns out that not all, but most of those results are somewhat contradictory and look at ways in different sense. And we were like, hang on a minute, could this be because your preference can change depending on the situation, depending on the task? So we ran a study in a like very basic no task situation and looked at how people reacted and what preferences they declared based on which profiles they had. And it turns out that the findings we find is that, funnily enough, people have different expectations and people have different reactions depending on the scenario, right? Like, I won't approach a game of Werewolf the same way I'll approach a game of Civ, right? Or I won't approach a game of Civ the same way I approach a game of Fortnite or something like that, right? Different scenarios, different games for different reasons, right?
Yeah, but it's also something that's specific to you, which is what I'm learning from this conversation. I have a little conceptual model that is forming in my brain right now, that the way that we classify games is much more about the person who's doing the classification than it is about the game itself. Because we can, like, a game can be everything all at once. It can be artful, it could be serious, it could be fun, it could be frustrating, it could be chaotic, and we just pull one of these to the fore based on what's the most salient aspect.
I mean, yeah, that's also true, but then you can also look at things like a more mechanical sense, like game genres, like what's a racing game? Well, a racing game is a game that has some kind of vehicle that you control to try and get somewhere faster than someone else.
Yeah,
what's a strategy game? Like this, these genres again. Like, so many games have like RPG elements where it's like you can gain levels and control a character. They're not RPGs in themselves, right? It's because game genre is a very helpful tool for like laying down a baseline to be able to discuss something with someone, right? Which again comes back to this: when you classify games and you classify experiences, genres and categories are very useful tools to be able to discuss something with something, something with someone. Oof. It's a tongue twister right there.
Wow. My brain is exploding a little bit. And we, to be honest, didn't even make it through half the question. So I think I'm going to ask you to come back.
I mean, definitely. I'm here for the next month. So if you guys want me here every week talking about random stuff for an hour, I can do that.
Yeah, awesome. I do want to ask you, though, so far, so that, when we have you back, you can give the bookended version of this. But what's your impression of the Games Institute?
It's... like, honestly, it's awesome here. Like, I sort of came into this experience because I'm always asked by my supervisors back home, so what do you want to do after after my PhD is up, right? Because like my contract ends in March next year, so it's coming soon, right? I need to wait. That's actually really soon. I need to start thinking about writing my thesis. Anyway, existential dread aside, the question has always been like, so what do you want to do after you've done your PhD, right? Do you want to do a postdoc? Do you want to like leave and work in the industry and things like that? And I always thought I had a very sort of clear idea of finishing my PhD and then working for, again, air quotes, real job, right? Going and working in industry, applying my skills as like either gamification or user preferences and profiles for something like that. And now that I've been here and talked to the people here and seen the research that people are doing here, I'm like, wow, this is really, really, really interesting things. And like, not to say that the research we do back home isn't interesting, because it really is, but like seeing other labs, other opportunities has really opened my eyes to like, wow, okay, there may be a lot more things to experience and do and like look into, research into. So yeah, I'd say that the lab here is really cool and really awesome. The work that people are doing here is really cool. And just like, I mean, just being around tons of consoles, computers, board games, just like it really sort of scratches that nerd itch I have, right? I guess. I don't know.
Awesome.
We need to play D&D with you.
Yeah. We do.
I mean,
I was
we need
thinking,
to set up like a one-shot or something, right?
Yeah.
I have tons
Yeah.
ready to go.
I'm totally sold. And then when you come back here to work here full time after March, then we can start a
whoa,
campaign.
Whoa. I mean, you offer me a job? Like, what's the situation?
If it were up
do you
to
have
me,
that power?
I definitely do not.
Okay, so
But if it
I
were
need,
up to me,
okay, so I need like 1,000. Yeah, I can say 100,000 starting salary with benefits.
100,000. You're selling yourself short.
I don't know. What's wait. Oh, wait. I'm thinking euros. No, what's that equivalent? Yeah, I need like 150k.
Yeah.
150k
okay.
starting salary with company car, health benefits, an apartment. I don't know. What else can I ask
Well,
for here?
maybe there's somebody listening who has that power.
Get a bubble tea punch card.
Oh yeah, that's a big
Tim's
thing over here,
reward
isn't it?
card.
Those
Yeah.
are free.
I can't believe I let that slide. So that means that you've been enjoying Tim's, eh?
I mean,
No,
yeah, like. Don't they throw you out of the country if you haven't had a Timmy's if you've been
Yeah.
here more than a week?
That's,
Like,
the,
that's
that's
the
like
thing,
the first
right?
thing my wife had to do when she arrived was get Tim's in the
Right?
airport. So.
Yeah, yeah. The French vanilla blueberry muffin. It's a staple, right? Like,
French vanilla.
yeah. Oh yeah.
What are
yeah.
you eating? Is that a thing?
You get
No,
a
French
you
vanilla
put it over.
coffee and
Oh,
then a blueberry
okay.
muffin.
Oh, I thought it was.
It's like 7,000 calories. It's just like it's a meal on a
Yeah.
drink and
Yeah.
muffin, right?
Yeah.
It's lovely. I love it so much.
Do we have time for one more question?
Of course.
Okay. Do you want to ask it?
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I don't know which one you're
I'm
thinking.
worried about this question now. Oh.
Oh yeah, true. I should probably tell you which one. I'm gonna ask you. What games have inspired you?
Oof. I mean, yeah, I'm just going to give another non-committal answer. There hasn't been any game that hasn't inspired me, right?
Oh, boy.
Either through bad games or bad games as an example as not what to do, and good games as an example of what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, like you saying, like The Witcher 3, I tried playing it, and I know the story is very all-encompassing and like very high fantasy, heroic
Right.
fantasy. I never could get into it, right? I tried really hard, but it's just one of those stories that doesn't mesh with me.
Interesting.
And I think it's because I started with The Witcher 3, and I know you don't have to play 1 and 2 to know what's going on, right? But because there's so many books and there's so many other stories, and I sort of got into the games like, oh, I don't actually have a sense of the world I'm in, right? Because I haven't
That's
felt
true.
the
You don't-
gravitas of 1 and 2.
That's what I was going to say. You don't really feel the pressure that's behind
Right.
Geralt the whole time.
Right, and you sort of get an idea, and that's nothing against the game, right? Obviously, it's more on like I didn't approach it in the right mind space. So that to me is like, if you want to make a game that's accessible to everyone when they first arrive, like you can't base it off other games previously. But then that's obviously on me, is because I didn't take the time to go through these other games, right? Which fair enough. And then there's other games like, even just like very simple things, like you said, Life is Strange. Like the emotion that's portrayed through that, and the choices having weight and affecting what's going on. Yeah, heartbreaking. Like I'm not too uncomfortable to say that. Yeah, I cried so many times during that game based on choices I made, right? Because that's the whole point of the game. Is you're supposed to feel things. And
I think I cried at the parts you're not supposed to. I didn't make it very far. But
oh.
yeah.
Wait, what parts are you not supposed to cry at?
There's this one part where she's just walking down a hallway and she goes, oh, and I just,
Yeah, you
like,
just feel like the stress of life and things.
yeah.
Like,
And I mean, I
it's
could
just
be
like,
describing any part, but just that character has
Yeah.
this energy of just despair.
Yeah, no, I agree. That it's like, yeah,
I chuckle at that.
or like the story of I have these powers, but I can't really wield them in a way that makes things work out the way I want to. Right? And you as the player feel that through controlling Max. Right? Is I want to do things, but you're frustrated and constrained by the game in itself, but also in the real more sense the powers that she has, right? That you can't wield them in the way that you want to wield them, which I think is a like again that mechanic of giving you essentially a godlike power, but then restricting it in a more gameplay sense and even a story sense creates for very interesting gameplay. So that inspired me to, like, when you create a system, give someone power, but then also restricting it in a way that makes sense and makes you feel frustrated, because that's the whole point, right? Is you're supposed to feel frustrated about your choices not being able to do what you want to do, not being able to what you want to do when you want to do it, and things like that, right? Which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's why I don't play those games. Because even you talking about it, I was like, nope.
Yeah, like, and things like permadeath, and like you're saying, Fire Emblem, like they
Yeah.
used to have permadeath, and that was when I just
loved
like
it when it was permadeath.
no, I hated it because
No,
well, I mean,
that's
I liked
interesting.
it, but then I save scummed, right, just to even like whenever I made a decision, was like, will this kill off a character? Doesn't matter which character. Doesn't matter if I use that character or not. I need all characters to survive, even if I don't use them, right? And that's just, and yeah, that's how I play Fire Emblem now, right? I put it in permadeath mode and still save before and after every battle, and then restart the battle if something goes wrong, because that's just who I am, right?
It's funny. We have to have you back on this podcast.
I mean, yeah, I'm down for it.
Yeah, because this is time, and as I said, so many more questions. Everything you say also makes me want to ask a million more questions too. So up next is, D&D and Stuart podcast part 2. We'll see what we can do.
No werewolf.
Oh,
I mean, I'd like to just sit. Can we just have a werewolf game and stick a microphone in the middle and just see where it goes, right?
We would be,
That'd
you
be
know
kind
what?
of fun.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hear from me much.
Maybe you could be the observer. You could dictate into
Oh
it.
yeah,
I'll
you
be the
could do the
narrator.
narrator voice. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be fun.
That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Let's do it.
Okay, yeah.
I'm down for it.